I'm with Michael Wells, a pastor from the United States of America, and you just recently brought a team of people over here to Israel. How many did you bring, and what was the age of the varied age group?
Well, thank you, Paul. It's great to be with you today. We brought 23 from Georgia, where we are in the U.S., and actually the age range was quite large and vast. It was my youngest daughter, was 15, all the way up to an 83-year-old who is a member of our church and who wanted to be part of the team. We had some 70-year-olds as well. And so it was all the way down, early 20s and then a lot of midlifers. And we had quite a vast spectrum who were part of our team, and they did amazing over there.
And why did you want to come to Israel at this time?
Well, I've known Stephen Curry in Holy Land Missions since 2011. And so during when we heard that the war had broke out and I'm 23, we began to contact them just make sure they were okay. And over the years, we've had Stephen to speak when he was in the States at our church, and we just kept relationship with him. But in November of last year, which would have been 24, we just had a tremendous burden to come over and to encourage and refresh all the leaders and all the people in Stephen's ministry and organization who were helping everybody else. And Proverbs says that he who refreshes others will himself be refreshed. And so we took that verse quite literally. Lord, we need to refresh the refreshers. And so I called Stephen and was like, can we just come serve your team and just help them? And we put the trip together, not knowing what was going to be going on with the war and just praying that everything would be all right. And then the day that we leave and get on the airplane is the day they sign the ceasefire. And so it was pretty
Wow,
incredible how God worked it out.
wow. Now you were working with Pastor Curry in Bethlehem. Did you stay in Bethlehem, and what did you do in Bethlehem, and what did you do around the area?
Yeah, and so all but 3 days, so 3 days of the eight, we were in Jericho, but the rest of the time in Bethlehem, we did a lot of home visitations where we took food to people and people who can't get out. A lot of the older people, elderly people, and both Muslim and Orthodox, and some Christian believers, and we didn't discriminate on who got the food. We just took it to people who needed it. We went, sat in their homes, we talked to them, we prayed with them, we did service projects. There's a medical clinic that HLM is constructing and getting ready, the building and prepping everything to be able to help people. We helped there get things ready, and we just did a lot of service projects that Stephen and his team needed.
Did it feel like you got to know the people with chatting with them? Did you find out different sort of bits of information that you perhaps didn't know about living here?
That was actually part of the incredible part of it is sitting and listening to people's stories and how they've endured these last 2 years, especially some of the older generation. And you look, if you go back 40 years, all the different wars, the Intifada, the different things that happened, and how they, weathered that. And it really was pretty eye opening, if I'm completely honest with you. You see things that they wish Hamas and some of the back in the day, the PLO didn't do. You see things that they're like, man, we wish Israel didn't do this. And there's a lot of error on both sides. And I believe the majority of the people in Bethlehem feel caught in the middle. I don't know if you've experienced that, but a lot of them are
Mm,
suffering just because they're caught in between these factions and Israel.
mm. And what was it like being in Jericho for quite a lot of that time?
Jericho was extraordinary. As our team went, we took about 35, 40 of the leaders from Bethlehem and just took them to a hotel and a retreat center over there, and we just served them. We did sessions to encourage them and to pray over them. We met physical needs as well that we found out that they had. One of the things that was pretty disappointing is we brought 23 50-pound totes over with us full of supplies for the church in Bethlehem, and Israeli customs stopped them. And so we are still negotiating with them to get the totes released to this day. It's been 3 weeks now, and I made the mistake of mentioning that we were going to Bethlehem, and they stopped all of our totes and took them. So some of the supplies that we were going to use to serve those leaders and different tools and gifts and things that we brought were all withheld, but we still had an amazing time in Jericho, and we got to go around and meet some of the different people in Jericho and just have wonderful conversations and just serve. And one of our postures of coming in as Americans. Some people, greatly distrust us. And some people are just like, man, I've not met an American. I'd like to talk. We just took the posture. We're not here to tell you guys how to do anything. We're just here to love Jesus and to love you as he would. And that really brought down a lot of walls, if you will, when people realized we didn't have an agenda. We just wanted to be with them. And they relaxed and they talked and they opened up. And it was a pretty incredible time.
Do you felt people really responded well to you?
Maybe I'm deceiving myself, but yeah, is for total strangers to be willing to open up and tell us their fears, for them to be open up and tell us, about family members that are suffering. I thought that was extraordinary. If a total stranger came over and walked in my house, I don't know if I'd tell them everything, but for some odd reason, we just took a posture of humility and weren't threatening people and bringing food and supplies they need. Maybe that put them at ease. And so we were very surprised with the level that they opened up to us.
Mm. Is this your first time actually coming here?
Actually, my first time was in 2011. I was part of a medical group that came over. My best friend was an optometrist, and the gentleman that he partnered with in his business was an ophthalmologist. So we came over and did a week long medical clinic out of the Curry's Church, First Baptist Bethlehem there. And we saw probably about 600 patients that week and multiple cataract surgeries and different things. And obviously, I'm not medical, and so I just helped wherever was needed. But it was a huge impact, specifically just to be able to give people something that they could never repay us for. And it's exactly what Christ did with us. We can't repay him for what he did. So our heart is only to give. And so it was quite extraordinary being here in 2011, and it had a tremendous impact on my life personally.
Mm. Now, the Currys believe the Bible. They are pro-Israel. Did that surprise you to actually meet Arab pastors who actually believe in the state of Israel?
Yes, actually, Paul, it did. In 2011, like so as we connected with him, talking with Naeem Corey, who is the founding pastor, and his son Stephen, their family, he has a tremendous kingdom view. And so, being a full covenant believer, the old covenant and the new covenant, you see God has a covenant with Israel and with the land. Now, we don't believe by any means that the nation of Israel is saved and doing everything God wants them to do, but we do believe that God has a promise with them. We don't believe replacement theology where the church has replaced Israel. We believe we're grafted in, and that's where they stand as well. And so we honor both nations, and we just try to have a kingdom view and bring all people to Christ. And that's the only way peace is going to be recognized, is if it's dealt with spiritually. There's no political answer to all this that is happening.
Now you got the opportunity to go into the Knesset, where they honored God and honored America, your nation. What was that like going into the Knesset?
It was quite overwhelming in some aspects because, never did I dream that we would be invited to the Knesset and to, I believe it was the KCAC.
The Knesset Christian Allied Caucus.
And so as we talked and as we heard all the stories, obviously that's where I met you. It was incredible hearing from the different ambassadors, from the different Knesset meetings and members, their stories, hearing what they've experienced. And it was eye opening in regard to the threats that exist to the Jewish state, as well as, understanding that there are some in the Arab culture who are believers, and there are some who don't want all the extremism that's happening. And there's just a lot of aspects that as an American we would never hear because of our news sources. So it was wonderful to be able to hear all those perspectives. The honor for America was a little overwhelming, and understanding the significance of, Trump and his presidency and the effect and the work that he is putting in Vance and some of the other ones from our government. And by no means are they perfect, but it's incredible just to see the effort and the attempt to try to bring resolution to some of these aspects.
So, do you feel that you as a group were quite unique because obviously you're getting a Palestinian perspective, but you also have a biblical Israel perspective as well?
Yes, we it was quite unique, and many of our team members throughout the 8 days that we were here in our team meetings, they would actually begin to ask questions like, "I don't understand why, I'm seeing this, and it's not what I hear in America. It's not what I've been taught." And it was a very eye-opening awakening, I would say, for many of them to understand that not all Arabs and Palestinians are bad, like a lot of the majority of the news sources. Not, Israel is not all bad. And I mean, there were so many things that our team was confronted with when they're sitting in front of a person and seeing them weep. And as we're praying over them and God giving us love for them, it broke a lot of their Americanism, if I can use that word.
Was this the kind of trip that you'll remember for the rest of your life?
Most definitely. And like I've been speaking with some of our members since we've returned, and many of them are like, Pastor Mike, I got to go back. I got to go back. And I'm like, okay, tell me what's driving that. And it was like I learned so much and I saw so much and I can't unsee that now. And so there's a shift in even the way that they're viewing life now. And for me, that's priceless. Because if we can learn to see people, no matter where you are in the world, no matter what country, if we can see people through the eyes of the kingdom and the eyes of Jesus, it changes you. And I think for a lot of them, it confronted stereotypes and beliefs that they had as Americans, and it brought them down. And that was beautiful.
Yeah, I was going to ask, are you hoping to bring teams here in the future?
Oh, for sure, for sure. And one of the projects that the Currys are doing is the Nativity Encounter. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but with Judaism and Jerusalem being the center of Judaism, and Pastor Stephen has it on his heart that Bethlehem is the center of Christianity. It's where Christ was born,
Mm.
David's lineage, so many different things that all revolve around Christianity in Bethlehem. And as they're building this nativity encounter, they're reminding people this is where this started, and they're helping people see the life of Christ, and not just his birth, but the things that he did and he accomplished in other major biblical characters as well. And so they're starting construction there, and so we're hoping to bring teams to come help with that. We're hoping to bring teams to come, help in their medical clinic in the future, and just whatever other aspects that they find. But this partnership with Stephen Curry and the Holy Land Missions is definitely going to be an ongoing one.
Sounds like it's changed your church.
Quite simply, yes, there is no doubt. Even the 83-year-old woman, she's been to Israel 8 previous times, most of them all tours. But this time she came and she saw from a Palestinian perspective, and it confronted her specifically. And this was a conversation I had with her last night, actually, at our service. And she's like, I'm never going to be the same. That was her exact words, because I saw it from a different lens and I realized some of my biases. And she was awakened in a whole new way, and even at 83, which I think is just amazing.
What are your prayers for the people here in the Holy Land?
Oh my gosh, Paul. You're hitting the button there. I'll be honest with you, I'm still a little raw from our trip and just some of the things that God did in my heart. And I think one of the big things is that extremism in any facet, whether it's, militant Islam or radical Judaism or radical Christianity, extremism is never going to have the best in mind for people. And so, no matter where it's confronted, it needs to be confronted. No matter, it's never going to produce God's results. And so, like I said earlier, my personal conviction is I don't think there's a political solution to what we're dealing with because it's the hearts of men, and it's hearts that don't have Christ. It's heart that don't see people in the value of life that God and his kingdom has. And so for us, being 7,000 miles away from you guys or whatever the distance is, I think the biggest thing we have to do, the Bible commands us to pray, for the peace of Jerusalem, and I believe it's all the areas. But also, I think we've got to be willing to put our money where our mouth is, and we've got to be able to come and help and serve and just, Jesus took up a towel and defined greatness when he washed the disciples' feet, and he said, "If you want to be great, be the servant of everybody." I think that has to be our posture, and so our prayer is, God, let people see the light of your truth as revealed through Jesus Christ. And our heart is to come show him to people. And
Mm.
so, whether we're in China or Afghanistan or Palestine, even here in the States, that's got to be our posture. And so, our prayers have to align with that is not our will, Lord, but your will be done. And tell us how to show people who you are.
Do you think that everybody in the church should go out on a mission at some time in their life so that people can actually understand what missions are about?
I am a huge advocate of both obviously sending long-term missionaries, not for colonial purposes. I hate the ideology of colonialism. We're not there to make their culture America or make the culture any other culture. We're there to just show Jesus to them and let Jesus invade that culture to be a kingdom culture. But short-term missions is incredible because like I told you earlier at the beginning, my I brought both my daughters on this trip, my wife and I did. One's 15 and one's 17. And this is their first time, across the Atlantic and first time in another country. They will never be the same. And if I can expose people to different cultures and let them see how God's working in other places around the globe, it gets their view much bigger to see the kingdom of God and not just a church or not just a country. And so I use the word myopic is sometimes our faith is too myopic, and especially in America. And realizing, man, there's a lot of things that we get caught up with that don't matter, and there's a lot of people that just need love and just need Jesus. And if I can take somebody on a short-term mission and let them see that, it changes their life. So I'm a huge proponent of doing short-term mission work just to expose people to get them out of their bubbles.
What's your website for anyone who's visiting Georgia and would like to come and visit your church?
Oh, fantastic. Thank you for asking that. It's www.nccvaldosta.org. And we're right in the southern part of Georgia, and we're what we would call a non-denominational church. We're a bunch of people who love Jesus, yet still under authority, and but we believe the Bible and everything in it. And our heart is to impact our world and starting in our own city. So we have a large city presence of projects and feeding the hungry and feeding the poor and renovating, houses, trying to make our city better than what it was when we began. And so we go from there following the pattern of Acts 1:8 to our nation and then to the nations around the world. And so our church is fiercely missional, and we're going to always talk about who are you going to serve and how are you showing the love of Christ, starting in your schools and your coworkers and your neighborhoods, all the way around the globe.
Well, Michael, thank you very much for sharing today.
And thank you, Paul, for the honor to be on this podcast. I wish you well, and I'm excited about your book, and just pray God just expand that exponentially for you.